I didn't call Daniel. Not immediately. I stared at Sarah's message for almost 10 minutes. Then I typed, "What happened that night?" She didn't answer. I called. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. I put my phone down and sat on the edge of my bed. For 22 years, Daniel had been the person I thought I understood best. Now it felt like every answer I'd ever been given had another question underneath it. The next morning, I called him. "Hey, where were you the night you went to see Sarah?" There was silence. "What? You heard me." Another pause. "Why are you asking?" "Because she contacted me." His voice changed. "What did she say?" "That I should ask you what happened." "That's all?" "No." I didn't tell him about the second message. He was quiet. "Daniel? I'm here. What happened?" "I went to see her." "I know that. She needed something." "What?" "I can't tell you." I felt my patience disappear. "You asked me to be your worst man because you wanted me to notice when you were lying." "I know." "Then stop lying." Silence. Finally he said, "I didn't go there because of Sarah." I frowned. "What does that mean?" "I went because I needed to return something." "What?" He sighed. "My wedding ring." I didn't understand. "What?" "The ring I gave Sarah." I sat up. "You gave your ex-wife your wedding ring?" "No." "You just said." "I gave her something else." "What?" "My mother's ring." I was silent. Daniel's mother had died when we were in our 20s. He almost never talked about her. I knew the ring mattered to him. Why did Sarah have it? Because I asked her to keep it. Why? Because I couldn't. That answer made no sense. "Daniel, you're going to have to do better than that." "I know." He paused. "I was angry with my mother." "Why?" "Because she knew." "Knew what?" "That I wasn't okay." He said it so quietly that I almost missed it. I didn't interrupt. "She knew before anyone else." "What did she do?" "She asked me to talk to her." "And you didn't?" "No." "Why?" "Because I was 24. He laughed bitterly. I thought needing help meant I was weak. I leaned back. "And the ring?" "She gave it to me before she died." I remembered the ring. I'd seen it once, years ago, a small gold ring Daniel kept in a box. She told me to give it to someone who would know what it meant. I didn't understand. "Why Sarah?" "Because Sarah knew." "Knew what?" "That I wasn't okay." He stopped. Then he said, "I gave Sarah the ring after we separated." "Why?" "Because she was the first person who had ever told me she couldn't keep loving someone who refused to be known." I didn't know what to say. "Did you want her back?" "No." "Then why did you go see her?" "To get the ring back." "Why now?" Silence. "Daniel?" "Because I'm getting married." I stared at the wall. "You wanted it for the wedding." "Yes." "Why?" He took a breath. "Because I finally understand what my mother meant." I waited. "She didn't want me to give the ring to someone who could fix me." He paused. "She wanted me to give it to someone who could see me." I felt something tighten in my chest. "And you think that's Emma?" "Yes." "Then why didn't you just give it to her?" "Because I wasn't sure I deserved to." That was the first thing he'd said that sounded completely honest. I didn't know what to do with it. "Does Emma know about the ring?" "Yes." "Does she know about Sarah?" "Yes." "Does she know everything?" "No." "Then why is she marrying you?" He was quiet. "Because she knows enough." I hung up shortly afterward, but I didn't feel relieved. I felt more confused, because now Sarah's message made even less sense. If she'd helped Daniel understand what he needed, why had she contacted me? I called her again. This time she answered, "Hello? What do you want me to ask Daniel?" She was quiet. "Did he tell you about the ring?" "Yes." "Then he told you the easy part." My stomach tightened. "What is the hard part?" "He didn't come to me to get the ring." I frowned. "He just told me he did." "I know." "Then why did he come?" She took a breath. "He came to ask me if he should marry Emma." I sat down. "What?" "He was sitting in my kitchen for almost 2 hours." "What did he say?" "He said he loved her." "Then what's the problem?" "He was afraid." "Of what?" "Of becoming his father." I didn't know Daniel's father well. He'd died years earlier. "What does that mean?" Sarah explained. Daniel's father had been the kind of man who never admitted weakness. When things went wrong, he disappeared. When his marriage struggled, he worked more. When Daniel needed him, he said he was busy. Daniel had spent his entire adult life trying not to become that man, but somewhere along the way, he'd overcorrected. He became the opposite. Instead of disappearing when things got hard, he tried to carry everything himself. Instead of refusing to care, he cared too much. Instead of shutting people out, he became whatever they needed him to be. "But that's not the same thing," I said. Sarah was quiet. "No." "Then why is he afraid?" Because he thinks it is. She paused. He told me that if he married Emma, one day she'd wake up and realize she'd married a man who wasn't really there. I looked down. Did you tell him not to marry her? No. Why? Because that's not my decision. What did you tell him? That he was asking the wrong question. What question should he have asked? She said, not will I hurt her. A pause. Will I let her know me when I do? I sat there silently. That sounded like something Daniel would never have thought to ask. Why did you contact me? Because he still doesn't understand. Understand what? That Emma can't do this alone. I frowned. Do what? Notice him every time he hides. The words hit me. He asked you to be his worst man because he wants you to expose him? No, she corrected herself. He asked because you're the one person who remembers who he was before he became this version of himself. I didn't know whether that made me feel honored or guilty. Probably both, Sarah continued. But there's something you need to understand. What? If you stand up at that wedding and tell everyone how much you know about Daniel, you'll fail him. Why? Because you don't know everything. I said nothing. You've spent 22 years thinking you know him because he tells you stories about the past. She paused. But the person he is now is the part you haven't learned yet. I looked at my phone. The wedding was in 2 days. What am I supposed to do? Sarah's voice softened. Ask him something you've never asked before. What? That depends on whether you're actually his best friend. She hung up. I sat there for a long time. Then I looked at the old photograph of Daniel and me that sat on my desk. We were 19. Both of us looked stupid. Daniel had one arm around my shoulder. I remembered that day. We'd spent the afternoon skipping class. I'd always thought that was when our friendship began, but looking at the photograph now, I noticed something I'd never seen before. Daniel wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at me. I remembered what Emma had said. You think you know him. Maybe that had been the problem. I'd spent 22 years remembering the moments when Daniel was beside me. I'd never stopped to wonder what he was seeing when he looked at me. That evening, I went to his apartment. He opened the door. You came. I need to ask you something. He stepped aside. Okay. I walked in. The apartment was full of wedding things, suit bags, boxes, flowers, cards. Everything looked ready. Everything except him. I turned toward him. Are you afraid of marrying Emma? He didn't answer. Daniel. Yes. It was the first time he'd said it without a joke. I waited. What are you afraid of? He looked at the floor. That one day she'll ask me how I feel. And I'll say I'm fine. I nodded. Then what? He looked at me. Then she'll believe me. I felt my throat tighten. Why would she? Because eventually everyone does. I stepped closer. I won't. He looked at me. That's why I asked you. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I asked the question I'd never asked in 22 years. What happens when you're not fine? Daniel's face changed. Not dramatically. He didn't cry. He didn't look away. He simply stopped trying to appear okay. I don't know, he said. And somehow that was the most honest answer I'd ever heard from him. The wedding was 2 days away. For the first time since Daniel had asked me to be his worst man, I thought I understood what he wanted. Not a speech. Not a scandal. Not someone to stop the wedding. He wanted someone who would notice when he disappeared behind the version of himself everyone trusted. The problem was that I still didn't know how to do that without humiliating him. So the next morning, I called Emma. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why didn't you tell me any of this before? She was quiet. Because it wasn't my story to tell. I respected that. But you knew. I knew some of it. Did Daniel tell you? Sometimes. And other times. I noticed. I smiled. You really are better at this than I am. No, she laughed softly. You've known him longer. That doesn't seem to help. It helps more than you think. How? Because you remember the person he was before all of this. I thought about that. Sarah said something similar. Emma went quiet. You talked to Sarah? Yes. Did she tell you about the ring? Yes. Then she probably told you about the other thing too. What other thing? Emma hesitated. The promise. I frowned. What promise? Daniel made it after his divorce. What did he promise? That he would never make another person responsible for his happiness. I didn't see anything wrong with that. Isn't that healthy? Not the way he understood it. How did he understand it? He decided that needing someone was the same as burdening them. I was silent. That sounds like Daniel. I know, she continued. He thinks love means making yourself easy to love. That sentence stayed with me. I had never thought of Daniel that way. But suddenly it explained almost everything. Why he never complained. Why he apologized for asking favors. Why he always offered to drive. Why he insisted on paying. why he disappeared whenever something was wrong. He wasn't trying to be impressive, he was trying to be harmless. And maybe that was the most dangerous thing about him. Because people could spend years beside someone who never asked for anything and mistake that for strength. That afternoon, I met Daniel for lunch. He was already there when I arrived. "You look terrible. You've said that twice this week. Because you look terrible twice this week." He laughed. For a moment, he seemed normal. Then I noticed the wedding invitation sitting beside his coffee. I picked it up. "You nervous?" "Yes." "About Emma?" "No." "About the wedding?" "Yes." "What's the difference?" He thought about it. "The wedding is a day, and marriage, everything after." I nodded. "Are you going to tell her?" "Tell her what?" "That you're scared." He looked at me. "She knows." "Do you tell her?" "No." "Why?" "Because knowing I'm scared and having to deal with it are different things." I leaned forward. "She wants to deal with it." "I know." "Then let her." He looked away. "I don't know how." That answer was becoming familiar. "So learn." He smiled. "You make it sound easy." "It isn't." "Then why are you telling me to do it?" "Because you're getting married in 2 days." He laughed. "That is unfortunately true." We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Daniel reached into his jacket. He placed a small box on the table. I recognized it. "The ring?" He nodded. "You're giving it to Emma?" "Yes." "When?" "Tomorrow." "Why not at the wedding?" He shook his head. "I don't want the first time she sees it to be in front of everyone." I nodded. "That makes sense." He opened the box. The ring was old, simple. There was a tiny mark on the inside. "What's that?" "My mother's initials." I looked at him. "She wanted me to give it to someone who knew me." "And you think Emma does?" He smiled. "She knows me better than I let her." I smiled. "That's different." "Yes." He closed the box. "I want to give it to her before the wedding because I need to know I can do it." "Do what?" "Tell her what it means." "What's stopping you?" He looked at me. "I'm afraid I'll say too much." I laughed. "You're worried about talking too much now?" He smiled. "I'm serious." "So am I." He stared at the box. "I don't know how to tell someone that I need them without making it sound like they have to save me." I thought about that. Maybe you don't have to explain it perfectly. What if I get it wrong? Then she'll ask. He looked at me. "And if she doesn't understand?" "Then you explain again." He smiled. "You've gotten surprisingly good at this." "Don't get used to it." He laughed. Then he became quiet. "Will you be there?" "Where?" "When I give her the ring." I hesitated. "Do you want me there?" "Yes." "Okay." We met Emma that evening at Daniel's apartment. She was sitting on the couch when we arrived. Daniel took the ring box from his pocket. "I want to give you something." She looked at him. "What is it?" He sat beside her. For several seconds he didn't open the box. I stood near the window. He looked at me. I nodded. He opened it. Emma stared at the ring. "It's beautiful. My mother gave it to me." She looked at him. "I know." He swallowed. "She gave it to me when I was 24. Emma waited. "She told me to keep it until I met someone who knew me." Emma looked at him. "And you think that's me?" He shook his head. "No." She looked surprised. "I think you're the person who knows me and still asks me to tell you more." Emma's eyes filled with tears. Daniel looked down. "I've spent years thinking that if I could handle everything myself, nobody would ever have to worry about me." He paused. "I thought that was love." Emma reached for his hand. "And now?" He looked at her. "Now I think love might be letting someone worry." She smiled through her tears. "Yes." He gave her the ring. She didn't put it on immediately. Instead, she held it in her palm. "Why did you need him here?" Daniel looked at me. "Because I was afraid I'd change my mind." Emma looked at me. "About being honest." She nodded. Then she turned back to Daniel. "You know you don't have to be honest perfectly." He smiled. "I know. You just have to keep trying." "I will." She put the ring on. Then she kissed him. I looked away. Not because the moment was private, because for once, I didn't feel like I needed to witness every second of it. I had already understood what mattered. The next day, Daniel called me. "It's happening tomorrow." "I know." "I'm nervous." "I know." I almost called it off. I sat up. "Why?" "Because I thought maybe I should wait until I'm better at this." "At what?" "Being honest." I laughed. "Daniel, if you wait until you're good at it, you'll never get married." He laughed. "That's what Emma said." "She's right." He was quiet. Then he said, "I need you to promise me something." "Another thing." "Yes." "What?" "If I freeze during the speech." "What?" "Don't save me." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Don't jump in." "Daniel, let me sit there." "That's going to be awkward." "I know." "What if you can't speak?" "Then I can't speak." "And you want me to just stand there?" "Yes." "Why?" because I need to know that I can be uncomfortable without somebody fixing it. I thought about that. Okay. Thank you. He hung up. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror holding the speech I'd written. I'd started with stories, funny ones, the night we met, our first terrible apartment, the road trip, the concert, all the things a best man was supposed to say. I read them again. Then I tore the pages in half. They weren't wrong. They were just incomplete. I took out a blank sheet of paper. I wrote one sentence. I've known Daniel for 22 years, and I still don't know him as well as I thought I did. Then I stopped, because suddenly I knew what my worst man speech had to be. Not a list of reasons Daniel was a great man. Not a warning to Emma. Not an embarrassing story. Just the truth. The truth about how easy it had been for me to mistake his silence for strength. And how, for 22 years, I'd been calling myself his best friend without realizing that sometimes being someone's best friend meant refusing to accept the easiest answer. I folded the paper. The wedding was tomorrow, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid of ruining it. I was afraid of doing exactly what Daniel had asked me to do. The wedding morning was the quietest I'd ever seen Daniel. His apartment was full of people. His sister was looking for cufflinks. His father was arguing with someone on the phone about the flowers. Two of his friends were standing in the kitchen eating sandwiches they weren't supposed to be eating. Daniel was in the middle of all of it, and somehow, he looked completely calm. Too calm. I watched him button his shirt. "You okay?" He smiled. "I'm fine." I stared at him. He looked back at me. Then he laughed. "Right." He sat on the edge of the bed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "I'm scared," he said. "I know." "No." He looked at me. "I mean, I'm really scared." I sat beside him. "About Emma?" "No." "About today?" "Yes." "Why?" He looked down at his hands. "Because everyone is going to look at me. They're supposed to." "I know." He took a breath. "And I'm going to want to give them what they expect." I nodded. "The confident version. The funny version. The guy who's completely sure." I smiled. "You are sure about Emma?" He looked at me. "Yes." There was no hesitation. That mattered. "Then what are you afraid of?" He thought for a moment. "That I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make her think I'm okay." I looked at him. "You don't have to." "I know." "Do you?" He smiled. "I'm working on it." A knock came at the door. His sister appeared. 5 minutes. Daniel stood up. Before leaving the room, he turned toward me. "If I freeze." "I know. Don't save me." "I won't." He nodded. Then he walked out. The ceremony was beautiful. I barely remember the flowers, or the music, or what anyone else was wearing. I remember Daniel seeing Emma for the first time. His expression changed. Not dramatically. He simply stopped performing. For a few seconds he looked terrified. Then he smiled. Not the smile he used when people asked if everything was okay. A real one. Emma saw it. She smiled back, and I understood something. He wasn't afraid of marrying her. He was afraid of being known by her. And he had chosen her anyway. The ceremony ended. People moved toward the reception. Everyone was laughing, drinking, taking photographs. Daniel hugged people, thanked them, made jokes. For a while he looked like the Daniel I'd known for 22 years. Then someone asked him, "You doing okay, man?" He smiled. "I'm fine." I looked at him. He caught my eye. For half a second I thought he'd walk away. Instead, he stayed. I went over. "You mean it?" He took a breath. "No." The man who'd asked him looked confused. Daniel smiled. "I'm happy." He glanced at me. "But I'm scared." The man laughed awkwardly. "Of what?" Daniel looked at Emma across the room. "Of being a husband." The man smiled. "You'll be great." Daniel nodded. "I hope so." Then he walked away. I stood there. That tiny moment meant more to me than any speech could have. He'd told the truth, and nothing had fallen apart. Later it was time for the speeches. Daniel sat beside Emma. I stood with a microphone. Everyone looked at me. I had written a speech the night before. I didn't use it. I looked at Daniel. He already knew. I could see it in his face. I took a breath. "I was supposed to tell you all what a great man Daniel is." People laughed softly. "He is." I looked at him. "But I've been his best friend for 22 years, and I think I've spent most of those years getting one thing wrong." The room became quieter. I thought being a good friend meant believing him when he said he was fine. Daniel looked down. I thought it meant trusting him when he said he didn't need anything. I paused. I thought knowing him meant remembering everything we'd been through together. I looked at Emma, but I was wrong. Daniel raised his eyes. Because sometimes knowing someone means noticing what they don't say. No one moved. I've spent years thinking Daniel was strong because he never needed help. I smiled slightly. I didn't understand that sometimes he was strong because he was afraid to ask for it. Daniel looked away. Emma reached for his hand. I continued. So when he asked me to be his worst man, I thought he wanted me to ruin this wedding. A few people laughed. He didn't. I looked at Daniel. He wanted me to make sure that if he said he was fine, someone would ask whether he meant it. I stopped. I think that's what a best friend is supposed to do. Daniel's eyes were wet. I put the microphone down. There was applause. Not huge, not dramatic, just enough. Daniel stood. For a second I thought he might hug me. Instead, he walked toward me and whispered, "You still got it wrong." I laughed quietly. "What?" He smiled. "I didn't ask you to tell them who I was." I looked at him. "What did you ask me to do?" He glanced at Emma, then back at me. "I asked you to remind me." I understood. Not to remind everyone, not even to remind him of his past, to remind him that he didn't have to disappear behind the person everyone expected him to be. I hugged him. "Worst man?" He laughed. "Best one I could have picked. That's not what the invitation said." I know. The rest of the evening passed without anything going wrong, and somehow, that felt important. There was no dramatic confession, no argument, no wedding ruined. Daniel married Emma. He danced. He laughed. He cried when Emma gave a speech, and when someone asked him if he was happy, he didn't say he was fine. He said, "Yeah." Then he looked at Emma. "I'm really happy." 3 months later, Daniel called me on a Sunday afternoon. "Want to grab coffee?" "Sure." We met at the same bar where he'd first asked me to be his worst man. He sat across from me. "How's married life?" He smiled. "Messy." "Good messy?" "Mostly." I laughed. "Mostly?" He shrugged. "We're figuring things out." I nodded. He looked at his phone. Emma had sent him a message. He read it, smiled, then put the phone down. "Everything's fine." I looked at him. He stared back. We both laughed. "Is it?" He thought about it, then shook his head. "No." I waited. He started talking. About work, about money, about something he'd been worried about for weeks. About a stupid argument he'd had with Emma. About how he'd been afraid to tell her because he didn't want to disappoint her. I didn't interrupt. I didn't solve anything. I just listened. When he finished, he looked relieved. "Thanks." "For what?" "Not telling me what to do." I smiled. "You're welcome." He took a sip of coffee. "You know what the worst part is?" "What?" "I thought you were going to ruin my wedding." "I almost did." He laughed. "No." He looked at me. "You finally did what I needed." "What was that?" He smiled. "You noticed." I looked at my oldest friend sitting across from me. For 22 years, I'd thought being his best friend meant knowing him better than anyone. I finally understood that it meant something much simpler. Sometimes you don't need to know exactly what someone is feeling. You just need to care enough to notice when the answer doesn't sound like them. Daniel picked up his coffee. So, you're still my best friend." I smiled. "Even after being your worst man?" He laughed. "Especially after." And for once, when he said everything was fine, I didn't automatically believe him. Neither did he.